A crazy person is walking a tightrope at high altitude to look down. Here from the ground is 500 meters high, a slight mistake. The whole village is sitting and waiting for the opening. His whole body without any protection. Even crazier is, the man actually sat on the steel cable, not happy to sit. He had to lie on it and then he started to die again. Hands even let go of the balance bar. How high is 500 meters? From the top to look down. The pedestrians on the ground are as big as ants. You guess the man will fall? And the film is based on real events. The man's name is Philip. Is an acrobat with dreams of fame. One day, he learned from the newspaper New York was going to build the tallest twin towers in the world. Philip knew that the opportunity to realize his dream had come. He decided to walk the steel cable between the twin towers. This would make him famous. The ideal was rich, but the reality was bleak. He couldn't tie the knots properly because of his wild background. He often fell from the rope. If this happens at 500 meters, that could be a very bad fall. It seems that he still needs to learn a lot of things. Philip found a teacher. He asked him to teach him all about ropes. From how to adjust the tightness of the rope to how to tie a strong knot. The technical aspects were finally solved. The teacher told him, the most important thing is to walk the rope is the mentality. But this is Philip's weakness. Every time he reached the last 3 steps, just when he thought he was going to succeed, the rope under his feet began to shake violently. The next day Philip went to the park to practice on the lake. At first everything went well, but with all the noise around him and the jeers of the fishermen below, Philip's mind was affected by the fluctuations. The rope swayed violently. He lost his balance and fell into the water. His first performance was a disaster. The failure stirred up his competitive spirit. This time Philippe decided to do it for real. He decided to walk the rope in Notre Dame de Paris. In the dark of the night, he and his friends sneaked in. He tied a fishing line to a juggling ball. Then he threw it to his friend on the opposite floor, with a thick rope attached to it. In this way he set up a steel cable between the 2 buildings. As the day dawned, a crowd gathered downstairs. Philip began to perform. This time he concentrated very hard. In an extremely dangerous environment, he was pushed to his full potential. The crowd downstairs applauded. Philip even got down on one knee to salute everyone. The show was a success, and he made it to the station. But the performance gave Philip a boost of confidence. Good news followed. The Twin Towers were about to be completed. He was on a plane to New York. Philip had just arrived downstairs. He saw the towers soaring into the sky. His faith was shaken.
These towers, they're just scaled. They just rise and never stop. It's not human. It's over. It's over. It's finished.
Philip almost wants to give up, but when he got to the top of the building, when he stood with his feet on the edge of the floor, the fear inside him completely dissipated.
It's impossible. But I'll do it.
Man standing on the tallest building in the world. His feet are slowly moving forward. Then he takes a deep breath and looks down. Suddenly a strong wind blows. He nearly loses his balance, but Philip was able to hold himself steady. He had to walk the cable between the world's tallest twin towers, but he had less than 3 months to do so, and that's when his best friend opted out. He thought Philip's idea was crazy. 500 meters of steel cables between the towers. This was impossible. When the teacher learned that he was not taking any protective measures, the teacher raised strong objections. The two had a big fight over it. Philip used his abilities with a lot of persuasion. Finally, the teacher agreed to help. In order to exercise balance, Philip stood on the steel rope and let his girlfriend sway desperately. A friend brought in a bow and arrow with a long range to solve the problem of passing the steel cable from the tip of the twin towers. In order to understand the structure of the twin towers, he cosplayed every day. He would pretend to be an employee and then pretended to be a reporter. At the launch event, he took the opportunity to ask about the distance between the twin towers, and just when everything was ready to go, Philip accidentally stepped on a nail. This made it more difficult for him to walk the rope. His girlfriend advised him to give up, but the madman wouldn't do it. Philip contacted a few friends, help him to complete this feat together. The next day was the day of action. The group traveled in a van. He arranged for some friends to hide in the North Tower first. He went to the South Tower, which was the most dangerous, because there was still construction work going on there. They pretended to be renovators and fooled the doorman, just as they were about to go upstairs, but they were stopped by the staff. The man said that someone had taken over all the elevators and told them to come back next week, but Philip couldn't afford to wait. He had to send the most eloquent member of the team, with the power of his friend. Finally, After all the employees were off duty, the men only agreed to let them go up, although there were always accidents, but they still stumbled. To get the stuff to the top floor, Philip made a specific hand signal to tell the men on the north floor that they could shoot arrows, but the arrow fell on the beam. Philip had to go get it himself. Just as the arrow fell, Philip grabbed him. Then they started to set up the cable, but then his friend's hand slipped. The cable fell rapidly. The two men were dragged forward with the inertia. It looked like something bad was going to happen. Philip was quick to see, quickly tightened the fixer, finally at the last moment to stop the fall of the cable. It was frightening to watch. The sky was slightly light, leaving Philip little time left, and at this time, a companion in the north building, fear of imprisonment, chose to quit. After fixing the main rope, Philip and his companion ran to fix the auxiliary rope again, 500 meters high. Two people without any protective measures, standing on the edge of a tall building to fix the steel cable. The slightest mistake would be the end of the world. They finally got everything ready before dawn. The next is Philip's personal show. I must say he is a crazy man, walking on a 500-meter high altitude. The only protection tool is the balance bar in his hand. He stepped forward with his feet on the steel cable. The slightest mistake will be the end of the world, but in his heart, he has no fear. As the crowd downstairs watched, Philip successfully walked from the south tower to the north tower. The crowd applauded him. He sat on the steel rope, eyes on the direction of the walk. A bold idea came to his mind. He got up and walked back again. This time his pace was more familiar and more graceful. He slowly stretched his feet backwards. He got down on one knee on the cable. Then he saluted the cable, to the Twin Towers, to the whole city, and everyone. What a crazy man. He slowly got up and kept walking. Suddenly two policemen arrived. First they arrested Philip's friend. They persuaded him to hurry up. Philip got closer and closer. At that moment he made another amazing move. He lifted his balance bar with a jerk, then a magnificent turn to continue to walk back. This move even the Grim Reaper called out powerful. He was on the verge of death. Then he made the big mistake of walking on the rope. He slowly lowered the balance bar, kneeling on it with both knees, watching people's scalp. He opened his hands, as if he was embracing the whole city. On the other side, the police from the South Tower also arrived. But Philip did not panic. He even danced on the steel rope. No matter how much the police tried to stop him, he did not listen to them. He even picked up the balance bar again. Another gorgeous turn. He stepped on the balance bar under his feet, clasping his hands in front of his chest. He made a very provocative move. Not difficult enough. He sat on the steel cable again. Sitting is not comfortable. He lay on it again, one foot hanging in the air, hands slowly open. At this height, it's not a problem for me. The man left in the morning. The seat opens in the afternoon. Philip looks up at the sky, enjoying the feeling of being high up in the sky. Suddenly a large bird flew towards him. It was staring at him with fury. At this moment, he finally realized the danger, so he got up and walked back. His eyes were no longer so firm. The shot-proof wooden block suddenly shattered. And more serious is, because of the long walk on the rope, Philip's injured foot has oozed blood. At this moment he abandoned all the while, lifted the balance bar to his back. One hand let down. He slowly moved forward. With 3 steps to go, his legs began to shake, with the steel cable under his feet shaking violently. Everyone's heart was in his throat, but it was really Philip's joke. He threw the balance bar hard. Then he stepped onto the rooftop.
My name is Philippe Petit. I'm a wire walker.
Philip was picked up by the police for violating over 100 city laws. He was picked up by the police, without a doubt, but everyone admired him from the bottom of their hearts. Even the police praised him as a man with guts. A man who dares to burn for his dream deserves everyone's admiration. Of course, I am talking about his spirit, not his actions. If you have enjoyed watching this film, why not give the blogger a like and attention? We'll see you next time. Translated with www.deepl.com/translator, free version.